So I'm here at Walden's. Oops, I forgot the name already. Walden's Puddle Wildlife Center. And you're probably wondering, why are you here? So this morning when I came out to go and run some errands, there was what looked to be a full-grown bird laying kind of in a puddle because we had just had a thunderstorm go through, but laying in a puddle, a bird laying in a puddle on his back with his, legs up in the air. And immediately I just froze, like, oh my goodness, thinking the bird was dead. But the longer I just watched it, it was breathing heavily. And so I'm like, oh my goodness, it's still alive. And I just didn't know what to do. And so I decided to start calling around to where I could take the bird. So I found another organization, and it was a lot of like calling and text messaging, and then there'd be a big pause. Apparently, their resources are very limited. And so, like, even talking to somebody directly was hard. And then because it's springtime, which is what I learned today, there are a lot of animals coming in all the time. And so a lot of places are like at full capacity. Got the bird. They told me to contain the bird and to bring it to them. And I'm like, I am not going to touch this wild bird. I'm terrified. And I finally went to my neighbor and he was willing to like scoop the bird up with a dustpan and roll him into my box that I had carved holes out of. I finally heard back from the place in Nashville and then the place that I'm at right now, which is in Jolton. And so these places, you have to make an appointment. You can't just come whenever you want. So I was just kind of waiting. So finally this place contacted me and gave me an appointment. So I brought it here, which was probably 50 minutes from my house. It's this beautiful nonprofit organization just surrounded by nature and trees and animals. And they rehabilitate animals here. So I brought the bird here in the box and they took him right away. They have like an ER downstairs. And the organization is run by donations. That's it. And they have all kinds of animals here. Right in their foyer, they have snakes. They have a squirrel. And the animals that they keep are ones that they can't let back out into the wild because maybe they're hurt too much. The lady was saying that the snakes, they were actually like owned like house pets. And so they can't be put back into the wild because they're used to being fed and taken care of. In fact, she said one of the snakes got out a couple weeks ago and came back. Anyways, I'm just like getting ready to leave. I'm so glad that that is over and that bird is being taken care of as in a safe space. It was stressful to me because he was like scratching on the box. And I was afraid he was going to fly out of the box while I was driving, and that would have been a hot mess. But I just started thinking about purpose. And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, why am I here? And I started thinking about, like, w And, you know, I really believe that things happen for a reason. Even if you don't recognize it right away, it may be hours later, it may be days later, it may be months later, it may even be years later before you realize what that purpose is. But I do believe that everything happens for a reason. Things do not happen by chance. And I don't believe in luck. Um, and so I'm just kind of, um, not that I had anything major to do today, but um, it was something that I absolutely have never done. I have never rescued an animal and taken them to a rehabilitation center. And just look at all the knowledge that I've gained. Um, it's good to do something that's scary, something that takes you out of your comfort zone. And this was definitely out of my comfort zone. Um, but I'm thinking about these ladies who I met, who one of them is being trained, and one I think works here all the time. And then interns come. How cool is that? That interns who are studying to be veterinarians can come here and learn and study um, animals who have been hurt or abandoned or who are orphans. When I saw the animal and I was contemplating what I was going to do, um, the scripture that came to me was, I believe it's in Matthew, when it talks about, you know, why do we worry about our lives, what we will eat or what we will drink, when God cares about the sparrows? He cares about the animals. He cares about the birds. And if one of them is lost, if one of them is hurt, he knows about it. And I just remember looking at that bird, thinking that over and over again. And I thought, if God cares so much about this little bird, you know, there's thousands, probably millions of birds in the world. But if he cares about this one little soul, how much more does he care about me? How much more does he care about my heart? How much more does he care about my life? How much more does he care about my salvation? How much more does he care about my relationship with him? And how much more does he care about my purpose? Today, my assignment was to rescue this bird. I don't know why. I don't know why, but I do know that he cares about that bird. He created that bird for a purpose. And why do I ever need to worry about my life? Why do I ever need to worry about my children's lives? Why do I ever need to worry about the kids at my school? Why do I need to worry about my finances or what my future is going to look like, or just going through difficult and hard things? I don't need to worry, because God sees me just like he sees that bird. So I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but it's okay. And I just wanted to take this moment to talk about it and think through it. I'll probably be processing today, but maybe it was just for this moment as I'm going through these 30 days of purpose. As much as I've been putting out these videos every single day, because I wanted to encourage and share with my community, oh boy, has it been helping me. It has been teaching me so many things about purpose, even more than I already knew. All right, so I'm here with Tammy at Walden's Puddle.
And a
Well,
snack.
thank you. Water and cookies. This is great. So I asked Tammy to share a little bit about how she got into working at Walden's Puddle, just in relationship to talking about purpose,
Right.
and what led you here, what brought you here, what was in your
Okay.
heart that made you say, this is something that I want to do. Maybe something in your past
Right.
has been something that you've been passionate about, and it just brought you here, and you pursued your purpose, and here you are.
I've been here, I started volunteering here 15 years ago with hands-on care with animals. I rescued an owl years before and brought it to a center, and of course, you know, didn't think anything else about it. And I was out mowing my grass one day, and my son had just gone off to school,
Okay.
and I was being pitiful and sad, and I saw a little baby raccoon in the yard, a little tiny baby raccoon. And so, of course, Mom went into action, and I scooped it up and
Wow.
brought it here. And then I found another one the next day, and I brought it here. And I'm like, that to me was my sign of what I needed to do with my life after
Okay.
my son, you know,
Went off to
left the nest.
Okay.
That's what I think that was my sign or my message of my purpose. I've
Okay.
always loved animals. I've been drawn to animals. I've always been compassionate, care about dogs and cats. And then the wild animals, you don't have to take them home and find homes for them. You just release them to the wild.
Okay.
They let me do this, and I'm very grateful that they allow me to help here. So this was the one that stuck. Really,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it more than any of my other volunteering.
Okay. I love that you were going through this kind of grieving time of, of your son leaving,
What am I gonna do with my life?
yeah, and you opened yourself up to seeing something new where you were still taking care of something, an animal, but you just like stepped into that role, and 15 years ago, wow.
So I'm Evie Taylor, and I ended up here because my son's girlfriend's cat brought home a baby chipmunk that had been injured by the cat.
Okay.
And it was alive. And so I called around and found Walden's Puddle, brought the chipmunk out here, and I got to talking with the lady at the desk, and I thought, I'm new to Nashville. I've been stalking my son, who also left the nest a couple of years ago. And I kind of followed him here because I had empty nest syndrome and was grieving the loss of my son. So I came here, and I thought, it's such a pleasant atmosphere. And I had been praying about like where to go to meet other women my age, or like what to do with myself too. It was a place where I could just sort of meet and connect in with some other people here, being new to Nashville and stuff. And just something positive to do, because I too like animals.
Okay.
I believe they're God's creatures, and I've been a caregiver of humans most of my life.
Okay.
In nursing and raising kids and stuff. And animals are just like a new and a different place for me. They're not as challenging as people are,
Sure.
especially as I've gotten older. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, I still help out, and young women and young guys come and they need a mother figure, but this is just a nice, pleasant, lovely place for me to just come. The work is very chill. The people that are here are very lovely. The animals are pleasant. And then when I got out here, it ended up being just this huge, it's funny to me how if we step out a little bit to do the next right thing, even if it may be inconvenient or something.
Or scary.
And I happened to be really tired that day.
Wow.
But by the time I got done chatting with Carolyn and left, I was like, oh, I had, you know, renewed energy. And it's like God has to remind me all the time of, you know, just basic, simple things, to just step outside of my comfort zone. To, if I want something, like if I want to make connections with people, I've actually got to get out there just to find something to do. Like, I kind of like what Tammy was saying. What am I doing with myself, with my life at a transition? I'm 61. And so this is, I'm not only transitioning where my baby boy left home, first time in my adult years that I've not had children or a child at home to take care of. My identity was so wrapped up in being a mother and a wife, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Full-time employee and this sort of thing, that I had lost myself. And so I'm looking for things. I'm trying to remember who I am. What is in my heart? What did God put in my heart to do with my life that not only will be of value in the world, but of value to me, if that even makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I felt kind of lost in myself.
So what advice would you give to a woman who is transitioning and not really sure what to do, and maybe has a prompting but kind of afraid to step out?
Do it. And the volunteer thing, it doesn't matter where, whether it's a wildlife rehab. I never in my life would have thought, I think I'm going to go find a wildlife rehab place to volunteer at. Do you know what I mean? Even though I love animals and things, it just wouldn't have occurred to me. But it's like God knew. Here's the little injured chipmunk. She's going to go there.
Yeah.
And it's going to be just the perfect thing.
Right.
I was originally introduced to Walden's Puddle when my neighbors found a pair of freshly hatched killdeer, which are like little plover birds, right?
Okay.
And I had known like for years and years that the right way to take care of that is to bring them to a rehabber.
Okay.
I was always very interested in like wildlife and conservation, and I brought this pair of two little tiny chicks up here with my sister, and as soon as we hit the entrance, I was just like, first of all, I was captivated by how pretty the entire area is. And just looking around like the lobby and like thinking about how cool it would be to do this. So I started looking into like volunteer opportunities and internships to kind of build my resume.
Okay.
And one of the recommendations was this place, and I remember being like, hey, that sounds familiar. I know that place. It would be lovely to stick around. And that's exactly what I did. So I pursued an internship here. I was accepted very quickly. I hit it off very well with a lot of the staff here. And I've been doing this since, it's been about 2 months now.
Okay.
And I love it. I love every second of it.
How do you know that this is part of your purpose?
I guess just knowing, like, as a kid, so much of my like life revolved around animals and wildlife. That was just all I wanted to do my entire life.
Okay.
I lived basically encompassing like the mantra of love the unloved, and I really loved like bugs and reptiles and just like a lot of the creatures that most people would not give too much of a care about. You know?
Right.
Yeah, so like as soon as I found an opportunity to be able to work so closely with animals like that, especially wildlife, most people don't get anywhere near this hands-on with wild animals.
Yeah.
And I was just thrilled. I'm so thrilled to be able to be doing this. So if you can find a pathway to continue that sort of passion, it's going to carry you such a long ways. And it's like, it's essentially going to be like, if you find a job doing what you love, you're never going to work a day in your life.
Right.
And this is not work to me. Even just following my passions, I just think that if it looks hard from this side of the fence, I promise you that hurdle is not as big as you think it is. Once you overcome it, it's gonna be so much more easy and just worthwhile. Is Nagini. She is one of our ambassador animals here at Walden's Puddle. She is a corn snake, which is essentially a pet breed of a snake.
Okay.
She is not wildlife at all.
Okay.
But corn snakes in general are just such docile, such personable snakes that they make wonderful introductions to reptiles, especially for people who are intimidated or scared of snakes.
Right?
Yeah, because she is just absolutely nothing but a sweetheart, and the entire species in general is almost always going to be like this, or just generally so easy to tame.
Wow.